You're valuing the 2023 rookie wide receivers all wrong. We're going to go over the values. We're going to go over how they should be valued in Dynasty Fantasy Football by ranking them and putting them into tiers today. But you need to click that subscribe button right now. Next week, we're going hot and heavy with Senior Bowl content. We're going to get you ready for your rookie drafts, player profiles, rookie rankings, everything on the channel right here. Click that button, stop missing out, start building your dynasty teams. But let's take a look at the rankings, and here you see the tiers. Randy Moss tier, Jerry Rice tier, Terrell Owens tier, a watch tier, roster tier, stash tier, deep stash tier, and a Kmart tier. You're probably wondering what's going on, but I'm going to talk about these tiers as we start placing these players around the board, talking about the values. And we're going to start things off today with the Kmart tier. And why is it called the Kmart tier? Drive around, look for a Kmart, because they're dead. And these players are dead. They're dead to us. And things are really going to change when we get these 2024 rookie wide receivers into the market. It's going to suppress these guys down even more. They might as well be dead to you as well. But let's talk about our first player here. Our first wide receiver that we're going to rank. And he's going into the Kmart tier. A big name from this week that people talked about. And I liked him as kind of like a dart throw play. Not a guy that you're buying last year. Not a guy you're paying up for. But if you wanted a dart throw wide receiver, I liked him. I liked the metrics. I liked him a lot this time last year. And then it went downhill slowly by the week. He had a sex scandal. He had all these off the field issues. And one bubbled up this week. You already know who I'm talking about. It's this guy right here. Kayshon Boutte. And it's over. It's over. He didn't do anything this year. There was a lot of ambiguity with the Patriots offense. We saw him in camp a little bit. It just didn't materialize. He's a Kmart player right now. He has all the talent in the world, or used to have it, but had that injury. And then that off-the-field issues, the sex parties, now the gambling thing, late-round pick, weird stuff with the LSU team. You're just going to have to wipe your hands with this. It was a lottery ticket. It was the upside lottery ticket, and a lot of those end up on the ground, and that's what you got to value these players as sometimes, as a lottery dart throw. He's going to the trash right now, and this other player is too, because you know what? Xavier Hutchinson. A lot of people was mocking him in like the second round of drafts last year around this time. A lot of people liked his prospect profile. But to be honest with you, you think he's going to surpass Nico Collins? Nico Collins is going to get that bag. Tank Dell, healthy. You think he's going to surpass that? And if he gets that Noah Brown role later, where's that going to be valued at fantasy? You're going to hope for that. You're hoping for that. But now we're looking at this 2024 class. More receivers are going to come in. 2025, more receivers are going to come in. We're going over these high school wide receivers. They're just good. They're just good. They're better at a younger age now than what they were 10 years ago. And that's just how it is. And the wide receiver position is going to be a carousel. You're going to have to materialize that in your brain, that these guys are going to turn and burn much faster at the lower level than what they used to be. Now we're looking at Charlie Jones. Maybe has some upside. Maybe if you're in a deep league, maybe you want to stash him along with Xavier Hutchinson. But he's more than likely dead, especially compared to the other wide receivers. And don't get started on Justin Shorter. No one's looking him up right now. No one's looking, let's buy some Justin Shorter today. Looking at the market, I don't even think he has ADP right now. I don't think Charlie Jones has ADP right now. That being said, Xavier Hutchinson has some ADP. Kayshon Boutte has some ADP right now at the bottom of the list. That's going to change come February once we rock some more ADP drafts and we start getting those numbers. He's gone. Hutchinson might be there, but when the rookies get infused from the 2024 class, he's going to fall down the rankings. But now we're going to our deep stash guys. Guys that are rosterable, but you got to pay attention to them throughout the process. They have some upside. We're talking about A.T. Perry here. We do have some openings on the Saints. There is some ambiguity here. There is some upside here. I liked his prospect profile. I liked him coming out as a stash play, as a lottery ticket. He's still a deep stash for me. Bo Melton. Bo Melton could be here, but we're putting him here due to the competition in the offense. There's a lot of competition there. Dontavian Wicks hit. We're seeing all the other wide receivers in the offense hit. Jaden Reed hit. Romeo Doubs is off and on. Christian Watson, when he's healthy, he's getting targets. Bo Melton right there for now. I wouldn't be surprised if they made some changes a year and a half from now. He's starting to get some work, but I'm not betting on it either. Let's put him there and wait and see. Parker Washington. He had his 15 minutes of frame. He sure did. He got some opportunities. He scored some fantasy points, but it really didn't materialize. I don't see the Jaguars leaning on him as a big piece, but as a deep stash, deeper league, sure, look at him, roster him. But now we're going to our stash players. I think you know what a stash is. You're stashing them. You're seeing what happens. You're watching them on the daily. The first guy I want to talk about here, Trey Palmer. And I think he's more than just a stash. Maybe like a stash plus. Maybe like the new iPhone that comes out of the stashes. Maybe that. Really depends on what happens with Mike Evans. Really does. If Mike Evans is probably gone, maybe. And if that happens, his value is going to go up. And you might be able to deal him. Or you hold and see what happens. But he has some upside. He's a deep threat. We need a little bit more out of him this year. But from game to game, you're seeing the targets. You're looking at the chart there. You're kind of enthusiastic a little bit about Trey Palmer, how cheap he is on the market right now. You can buy him for a song right now, but there is some upside. Our next wide receiver that we're going to be looking at is Jalen Hyatt. Stash player. He has some upside. The upside is with the air yards, his ability to get deep downfield. We just need this to materialize into fantasy production. We went from a third-round pick to a stash play, and third-round picks are usually stash plays anyways. Also, this time last year, he was being mocked as a first-round wide receiver, but the upside is there in the air yards. However, the downside is in the situation, and he needs to develop more as a prospect. But the air yards is there. He could be a splash play guy off and on throughout his career. That might be his avenue. But again, you want to stash him. You want him on your roster. And then we're going with Cedric Tillman here. Another stash play. And I like him as a prospect. But Amari Cooper's getting the work. We're also seeing Elijah Moore on a lot of weeks seeing a 20+% target share. Just not enough room to spread the ball around. Njoku has earned more targets in this offense. I feel like it's going to be hard for him to climb the depth chart. But if injuries happen, if something happens to this team, he might work his way up. There was a period, like a 3-week stretch later in the season on the back nine where he was pushing targets. He was getting target share, but things flipped, especially once Flacco got in there. You're going to have to pay attention to him in camp, pay attention to him over the summer. This next tier are players you need the roster. You're not banking on them. You're rostering. They're more like a stash tier, maybe like an upper tier of the stashes. But first player I'm looking at here, Demario Douglas, and I'm watching the Patriots. He's pushing the stash tier, but really he's a roster tier because he was seeing a tremendous target share all year long. He was getting workload, around 6 to 10 targets per game. He was getting opportunity, but the quarterback position's in flux. Maybe we see Jaden Daniels there. Maybe we see Drake May, but we don't know right now. But he is seeing stable workload. He is seeing stable opportunities. They're going to bring wide receivers in because that's what they need to do. They need to do that. Competition is coming to this team. I would not be banking on him. That's why I'm kind of like, hey, he's here, he's there, and I can't tell where to put him. I'm just going to put him here because you know what? Maybe I need to reward him for doing well, exceeding expectations this year. That's probably what I need to do. I'm just going to put him there for right now. And with these tiers, you can maneuver them around with how you want to rank them. But this is where I believe they should be. Next guy, Marvin Mims. Tons of upside. Round 2 draft capital. Air yards machine when the targets are going his way. He's a guy that just needs 2 targets and just bring him in. And he can get you over 10 fantasy points on any given week. We need him to be consistent. We need him to start getting opportunities. We need him to start stepping forward, and we need this Broncos offense to come alive for this to happen. We're rostering him. We're not loving it right now, but you're rostering him. Again, this tier is more like a stash tier, but more of like prominent names that you're more excited about. That being said, Dontavian Wicks. Wicks is a player you're watching big time right now. You're watching him on the offense. He's a guy that could climb the depth chart and really make some of these other Packers wide receivers just move down and really take over things. He's got that upside. He's a guy we've been paying attention to last offseason because he's a very good wide receiver, dripping with upside, and he's a guy that could really stick here. We're not going to 100% bank on him, but if there's a stash play out there that I want, Dontavian Wicks is a guy that I'm looking at pretty hard. That's why I don't have him in the stash tier. That's why I have him up a tier. I think a lot of people would have him somewhere around here. I got him around here in this area. Around this area is where I got him ranked. And the reason why is because I see the upside. I like the prospect profile. I think he's a damn good wide receiver, and I think he can climb this depth chart. So he's a player I'm very bullish on. Jonathan Mingo. Move him around here, wherever you want to put him. I don't care, but he's in this tier. And he had some moments this year where he saw around a 20% target share. It was up and down. The Panthers were up and down. They're making some changes. Bryce Young is going to be going into year 2. I'm not 100% buying in. If not, he'd be here. But I'm paying attention to him. He's rosterable. There is some upside here. We just need the situation to change. We need him to develop. We need Bryce Young to develop. We need some changes here, but we got to wait to see what happens. There's a lot that needs to happen for him to hit, but if it does, then he could go to the moon on you. Just the odds are stacked against it. Michael Wilson. There's a good chance that the Cardinals draft Marvin Harrison Jr. He's mocked there in every draft almost. Just about. Marvin Harrison Jr. is being mocked to the Cardinals like crazy. They're in the range to draft him, and they may do so. And I don't see why they shouldn't. I don't see why almost every team in the league shouldn't do that. That being said, that might just put him in stash territory, but we do not know for sure. Based on what we saw last year in 2023, we saw a little bit of production. We saw a little bit more workload. We need that to bake in. We need that to come together. But if a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. comes in, he's going down here or maybe even here because there's just not going to be enough opportunity there because all the targets is going to go to Marvin Harrison Jr., which it should. And plus all the upside, the value, it's going to be cranked out of there. But we're going to have him there just in case for right now. Now for our watch 2023 rookie wide receivers, Josh Downs. I'm watching him like a hawk. I'm watching his value. I'm going to kick his fantasy manager in the shin to see if he can cough him up on cheap, just to see if I can catch him out of value. I'm watching Josh Downs. I think he can work up to here and here very easily, especially if Anthony Richardson takes a step up in development, especially if he can climb the ranks. We saw it last year, but we did have a long run of no production. That being said, we're watching him. We're also watching Quentin Johnston. We're paying attention to him. A lot of people are either going to drop him to like here range, probably here. We're just going to be conservative. We're not going to put him in the Terrell Owens category. I'm not going to give him that much faith. I'm just going to put him here and we're just going to watch him. The odds of me buying Quentin Johnston in Dynasty, I don't think it's very good. I feel like I need to buy more into this 2024 class. I'm paying attention. He was getting targets, but injuries amounted towards that. 2, he did not live up to the first-round draft capital this year. I'm just hoping he steps up and develops. I'm watching him in a different light. I'm watching to see if things get put together. Josh Downs, I'm watching him in a different light because we had some injuries this year. We already approached these levels, but we had that big drought. I like him a lot. I like Josh Downs more than Quentin Johnston right now. I don't think many people are going to argue with me on that, but I'm still watching him. And I'm not kicking him down here because I feel like the upside is a little bit more than these guys down here in this tier. But Josh Downs, for sure ahead of this tier. If I could make another tier to make this make sense, I would. Like it would be like this. but I'm not doing that. I've explained myself. The Terrell Owens tier. So the reason why I have Randy Moss, Jerry Rice, and Terrell Owens, I did not want to go the normal tier route. I want to recognize that these are some good wide receivers. They're making a fantasy impact. These guys made an impact on the game, but I wanted to tier them off in a way that when people just scroll through this video, not listening to what I'm saying, because I catch that a lot, because that's what I interpret the comments as, that I wanted to let you guys know that anybody in these 3 tiers are damn good, and I want them, and they're good in fantasy. They're going to be good for a long while, and honestly, the Jerry Rice tier and the Terrell Owens tier, sandwich them the same, but the difference between them is how I read the market a little bit. The Jerry Rice tier has a little bit more value in the market when I read ADP, when I look at trades. Also, it's a little bit more liquid too. You can move those players a little bit better. The Terrell Owens tier, similar when I look at the profiles, the production, how I look at them in the future. There's a lot of similarities. But the liquidity in the market's different. That being said, Terrell Owens tier, Rashee Rice. It took a long time for the market to come along on Rashee Rice. I could easily put him here. I'm going to put him here. That's why I got Jerry Rice and Terrell Owens very close to being the same. Both Niner wide receivers, if you identify Terrell Owens as a Niner wide receiver. That being said, Rashee Rice is up there. He deserves to be a Jerry Rice tier guy. But I don't think the market is there 100%. I think we're going to get into the off season and it's going to cool off a little bit because it took some time. It took some time for the market to realize. And he was an early pickup off waivers in redraft. And it was hard for people to hold him in redraft. And then also when the numbers starting to hit, you could see where there could be more upside. And the upside is there if they start giving him deeper targets. Start throwing it downfield a little bit more. The volume started to get there in the back half of the season. But we need deeper targets. I'm saying instead of being around that 15 to 22 points per game area, that's where it was kind of at in the back half of the season. I'm kind of talking off the top of my head there. To being around like a 25 point per game guy, a top tier guy that's in a God tier, somewhere up here, somewhere up there. And that being said, we have upside to that. But the market isn't really looking at it that way. They're not deep diving the numbers saying, hey, if this and this happens, we could be seeing an explosion here. Also, he's with Patrick Mahomes. He outlived all those jabroni wide receivers. He deserves it. Jaden Reed, he's here to stay. Love has been cooking. Jaden Reed's here to stay. Broke out with 2 different collegiate programs. His college profile says, hey, this guy's going to break out sooner than later. You can play him in the slot. You can play him in the outside. Good production this year on a team that was transitioning from their former quarterback. This is a wide receiver that's here to stay, that has a ton of upside. And I believe when we look at him this year that we're going to catch him at a value once we bake in this 2024 draft class. And he's a guy out of this tier list that you're probably going to be able to catch in a lot more trades at a cheaper cost. Now we're in the Jerry Rice tier. I also bake in the player value of the market into these because liquidity is important. Being able to sell the player, hold value on the player is important. I also look at them on how they play the game. I like Jordan Addison. I thought he was the safest wide receiver in the 2023 class last year. A first-round wide receiver who got Kenny Pickett drafted in the first round. He's that good. He got Kenny Pickett drafted in the first round. He's going to hold that value. A little bit up and down because the Vikings offense was a little bit up and down. But that being said, he's a tremendous wide receiver. He's holding value very well. And Jordan Addison has some upside. He had some splash games. He looks good on the field. He transitioned very quickly to the NFL game. He deserves to be up there. Tank Dell's another guy. Injured. Missed a lot of the season. But when he hit, he melted your face. And I think he's here to stay. I think his value's high, but I think he's also obtainable. I think no one's going to argue against that. I think Stroud is in a good place right now. I think Stroud's not moving. I think he's going to be a top-tier guy for a good bit. I like the offense. I like how vertical it can get. That being said, Tank Dell's up there. I was a little bit lower on the offense. I would not say Tank Dell, but I was a little bit lower on the offense going into the season. And I don't think I was like the only person. I think I was in the majority there. And I was watching CJ Stroud, and I knew that him and Nico Collins was a good pair. And I said, watch them two. And I really did not think it would explode like this, but it did. And it trickled into Tank Dell. Tank Dell's a very good wide receiver prospect, very productive at the college level, and now we're seeing it come to the NFL level. He's here to stay. He's very nuanced, good route runner, has good burst, creates separation. He's here to stay. Now we're looking at Zay Flowers. He had his moments as well. Saw a 20% target share or more in a lot of games last year. Very valuable wide receiver prospect. He's holding his value on the market. He's a little bit more liquid than some of the other top guys. But again, Zay Flowers, I like him as a prospect. I think he's going to grow in his role. I think he's got a ton of upside too. And I think this team is going to mature, and these wide receivers are going to hold more value going forward, be more productive. That being said, Jackson Smith-Njigba, I got him back here. He is valued as the wide receiver 2 in his class per ADP. However, he did not live up to expectations. DK Metcalf's going to DK Metcalf. You also have Lockett there. You're going to push those guys downfield, and then you're going to have him as the wide receiver 3 doing the underneath stuff. He was also hurt going into the season. He was hurt during his final year of college, only played like a smidge. That being said, this was like a rookie year plus a get-right year coming back from those injuries. We're going into our next season. He's so valued right now that he's hard to say he's a buy. He's up there. Is he a sell? You can trade back, get some other liquidity there. You can get some of these other guys in the Jerry Rice tier. You can get a Terrell Owens tier guy and a little bit of something. If that's something you want to do, I can't hate on it. I'm not. But value-wise, where he's at, he's valued as the wide receiver 2 per ADP in this class. I'm just going to throw him in this tier because he could turn it around. He could start being more productive, but I'm not going to like anoint him or anything because he's holding that value, because that would be ignorant. That would be kind of like Take Lock, but kind of on a different spectrum. But our Randy Moss guy really melted everybody's face this year. I had him higher in the rankings than what I thought, because I came back to this tier list to make it for that last video I did, which was very funny. I went off feelings and ranked these guys, and it confused everybody, which was a good comedy show for me, because they did not listen to the intro, because I said this is not for fantasy football, but could be for fantasy football if you really want to read the tea leaves, because I'm going to rank off feelings today. And I had it all weird and stuff, playing around with this. This is where I got him at for Dynasty. But our Randy Moss tier, you know who it is. ADP has already told you that. He's ranked as a top 10 wide receiver in Dynasty right now. He is setting records. You can't just take Lock and say, hey, he's a late round pick. We got to keep him down there. Puka Nacua, Randy Moss tier. What are you doing with them, though? Are you selling him? Are you buying? Are you buying at that price in startup drafts right now? If you have them, are you kicking the tires? You know my process. If the value changes, I'm kicking the tires. And that's with any single wide receiver. I'm not in love with any players. I do not have any bias with any players. If a value goes up or down on any of the markets, I'm at least going to submit an offer to somewhere around that range, see what happens, start some discussions. More than likely, nothing happens, but also you got to keep your league awake as well. Puka Nacua earned it this year, and whether or not he holds it, that's another story, but he's holding that value. He deserves to be ranked in the Randy Moss tier. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me hear about it. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button on the way out. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.